So, Julie, hi, welcome to this first round of interviews of DESIS Student project. We can move on to our first question that would be if you remember the beginning of your journey as a designer.
I kind of feel like, like I was ready, but in a way design found me, I guess. I grew up in the southern interior of British Columbia in a really small village on an egg farm. And we also had beef cattle. We had just horses. And, when you have property like that in a rural area, it's easy to support animals and, there's lots of space. And I was building forts all the time and just like creating these worlds outside. And so I can definitely see the roots of my practice there. My father is a jack of all trades. He's a tractor mechanic. He's a chicken farmer. He's actually trained as a forester. So I kind of like a family culture of like mixed like backgrounds and like work experiences and stuff like that. So I can see how that has informed the way that I've come to design, but and I always loved art and drawing as a kid, but I didn't actually enter my design education officially until I was 27. Now I'm starting to feel like a designer, maybe. It takes a long time to feel comfortable, I think, in the practice.
Yes. Yeah, this is true. But if I ask you, what do you think it is to be a designer? What would you say?
I would say it definitely varies person to person. So I have a specific experience of it and definition of it that is around like multidisciplinarity, like linkages between fields and areas of study and different practices from, human geography, human animal studies, cultural anthropology, informs design, ethnography, and all of these things. I see it as this dynamic patchwork of practices and methods that more and more people who are trained in it, like including myself, are trained to kind of be like clicking these modular practices into place, project specific, like different projects call for different combinations of methods and things like that. And then of course, like more and more, and I think rightly so, engagement with communities, the communities who are being served by the design work, the communities who are being impacted by the design work. And there's always a multiplicity of those, human and non-human communities. So that as well. So managing complexity in stakeholders and in methods and in future. Yeah.
Yes, of course, it's all linked and it's very complex. What do you enjoy most about design? It can be about working or studying.
I think that's what I enjoy the most about it. I think it's such a like rich area. You can like really make it what you want, and like every project can be different, and you can kind of engage in so many different spaces and bring in so many different kinds of knowledges. It does have a large proclivity for activism, which is really important to me as well. Pushing into, better futures, like better for who, right? Asking those questions. So that's what I really love about it. I love that it's complex and I love that it's dynamic and engaging of like multiple groups always. Yeah.
Do you have a memorable moment of your life as a designer? It can be before college or official studies or masters and graduations, but a moment that you remember very kindly.
I think it's maybe a collection of moments of observing other people practice in really in ways that are really like sensitive and like questioning and like really supporting communities or supporting groups that they're facilitating or working with in co-creation sessions or like interviews or whatever the setting, workshop. I think one of the most exciting things that I've observed is like how quiet design can be and how like supportive it can be of like, other like the communities themselves. And I think that was like it was really comforting to me that it can be this like humble thing, or that maybe like that's like a safer like approach or something. It doesn't always have to be like, this is the answer to all of our problems and like
Yes.
universalist thinking. It's comforting to know that your ideas like aren't going to have that much impact. Honestly, they're just part of a collective that are, all addressing like systemic issues. Yeah, it's scary to think that, something you might produce or like propose could be taken as the answer. And it just seems like if there's only one answer, it's always going to be wrong in some ways, right? So
Until today, do you have a favorite project you developed or that you worked at?
Yeah, I think I've been really enjoying my thesis work. I'm in the middle of the project though, so I don't really know like what the outcome will be. So maybe it won't end up being one of my favorite projects. Who knows? I'll let you know at the end of next year. But I'm working on a small project right now with a team of other designers around microcare and observing acts of microcare in our daily environments during this pandemic situation, during this ecological crisis situation. And that's just been really like healing and comforting. We've kept the project very light, just like we've contributed writings and we've invited other collaborators to just like really light, short pieces of writing, just musing on like acts of care and how those like little things get missed easily, but they're happening all the time in our daily lives. And that was just really like healing kind of project to be on, especially in this given time. So I'm really grateful for that.
And now about being a student, what would you say is the best part of this process of student being?
I think working in a studio environment that is so dynamic and like it's really hard to attain that outside of school. So all of your classmates or colleagues are there, and obviously right now with a lot of online coursework and stuff, we've lost a bit of that, and we're trying to figure out how to do that virtually. But that like in-person studio environment where you can kind of dip in and dip out and have conversations with other people about their work and ask them questions about who they're reading, and that has been just like irreplaceable, honestly. So I'm really grateful that I did have that for several years. Yeah.
I would ask, what is the hardest part? Like not the worst, but something that is hard in this process of studying design.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So this recent situation where things are moving more virtual, it almost feels like a sense being cut off. Like I have this sense that's my class, like my cohort, all of the designers, there's around 25 of us, and we used to see each other multiple times a week, and we had a studio that we all worked together in. And I almost feel like a sense like I've been, like a sense has been cut off, and I'm not getting the information or the input that I was before. So that's been hard.
What do you think is the biggest change that your daily life suffered during this pandemic?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think not just having access to like other minds and creatives, but the spaces as well. Like the space that I work in does affect my work quite a bit. So I'm doing all of my working and living in one space right now. And so, as designers, we love contrast, right? And that's been something I've been thinking about. It's like my life has way less contrast now. And so it gets a little bit confusing or like difficult to be creative, like, whereas before I do work for remote companies. So I did work from home often. But I could work in a cafe, and then if I was doing schoolwork, I would go to school and work in the studio. And then I had set up this like physical space to like think in certain ways, and that has been kind of disorienting not to have.
And now we're moving to more personal questions, just two. But I was wondering, what is your learning process? Like when you want to learn something new, what do you do?
I either read. I'm like a big reader and writer. So if there's actual like information, like there's a new process or a new way of thinking that I have to absorb, I'll read about it and I'll write about it. And I'll do kind of like reflexive, like writing to the reading that I'm interacting with. But then also sometimes I have more like aha moments, like when I'm not trying, I guess they're more emergent. And those are more like if I haven't actually been working for a while and I've been outside and I've been like, this is something that I would like to do more, actually like engage myself physically with the outside world and like, seek and touch plants and like, that's just like a really creative space. And I kind of grew up that way, and not really having access to a ton of that has also feels a bit like losing a sense.
Do you have a dream as a designer?
Mm-hmm.
You can go wild in this answer, so don't worry about if it's gonna happen or not.
I have a dream that as a designer, I'll be part of a world that considers non-humans all the time and like sees humans as just part of a like family of things that are in the world and part of systems that are so much greater than like the sum of their parts. And I just really want to see, because like when I see certain, like there are people who think this way and know this, and like indigenous knowledges have been, have always known this. And there's, some people, like I have like friends who are ecological activists and stuff, and they know this. And when people live in that like reality or that perception, they seem so happy and like in tune with the world and not alienated in this like weird, like human, like non-animal, non-nature space that is kind of just like this weird binary that we've invented. So I just want to see more people like live that way and experience that.
Super cool. I loved your dream. Maybe I want to join you in
Yeah.
your dream. And our last question is about DESIS itself, because as students, we are a fundamental part of it. And I don't know if you have ever thought about it, but what would you see for the future of us as DESIS students in the context of what we can do together? If you have any ideas about what students that are connected to DESIS could do together in the future, it would be great if you could share it with us.
Yeah, I think like, first of all, I think what you're doing is amazing. And like people keeping on doing this is actually the first time I've connected with other students in another DESIS lab. Like I've interacted with the Emily Carr students at the Emily Carr one, and I get, I'm in the like email threads of the more like permanent like faculty members who are like in the labs like year to year, and Emily Carr has like an amazing core group of faculty who are there all the time, and Louise who connected us is one of them. And so I would love to see the student to student connections more, and so that's why what you're doing is like so cool, and like I'm so happy to be a part of it. And then seeing we're in this virtual world now anyway, so one of the benefits of this and silver linings is it's just as easy for me to interact with you. We have different time zones and stuff, but interact with you as like one of my classmates who maybe went back home to like New Mexico or like China for the summer. So that's kind of cool.